my fellow guitarists and future rock stars. If you've ever found it difficult to learn the guitar or even get started, well, I'm glad you're here. There's no doubt the guitar is the most popular instrument for any new musician, and it's not really hard to see why. Some of the coolest players we know have represented in this way. Think of Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Steve Vai, Van Halen, Malmsteen, Slash, and I could just keep going on and on, can't I? All these people have been instrumental in changing the face of music as we know it today, and specifically the sound of the guitar. My name is Shane, and I thank you for joining me today for a special guitar learning course, specifically for new players. This course will help you get from zero, meaning you know absolutely nothing, to hero in no time at all. Now you're probably thinking, so what makes this course different? Well, I can promise you this. It's not going to be one of those lame courses that shows you a couple of chords and then has you fend for yourself with all your questions. You see, if you're anything like me, and the rest of the population for that matter, you've probably tried to learn some chords from friends, learn some songs from YouTube or other resources, and picked up a little information from here and there. I know. I've been there myself. But after doing this for some time, you feel there is something missing. There are gaps in what I know, and I don't really understand what I'm doing. When I started playing, there was no YouTube, there was no internet, and no quick fixes. Yeah, that was a long time ago. You either got a teacher or you went down the long road and figured it out yourself. Well, I chose the latter. Sometimes it's not the best choice, but for me, it has worked out well. I learnt one chord, only one chord. I mean, you can't really do anything with one chord, right? And that's all true. So instead, what I did was I pulled that chord apart and found out what made it tick. Why was this chord an A chord, for instance? And I used that knowledge to play it in different areas, all over the fretboard. Then I took that knowledge and put together the other chords in that particular key. Key, I hear you ask. What's a key? Well, don't worry about that right now. More about that later. I then came to the point where I wanted to play lead, to improvise. Well, I knew I couldn't do that without learning scales. But what the heck was a scale, and how does it work? How do you apply it? It seemed there were more questions than I could find any answers for. So I learnt my first scale, the C major scale. Again, I pulled it apart and tried to find out what it all meant and how I could apply it in the simplest possible way. This all took a great deal of time and a lot of frustration, but I persevered and I got there in the end. Truth be told, what else was I going to do? I wasn't going to give up on the guitar. You see, I realize today we live in very fortunate times, and we can access any information we want with a click of a button. The internet is an amazing resource. It keeps us in touch with each other. It keeps us informed. It can help us learn things that we would have normally taken months or even years to learn. But as amazing as the internet is, it is a tool. And like any tool, if it's not used in the best way possible, it can actually do you a disservice. But let me explain. Imagine, if you will, you wanted to build a house, and the house is basically your musical knowledge. Now, we all know a house needs a good foundation, and that's usually a concrete floor, timber stumps, or something solid to build on. The house will also need walls. It'll need a roof, plumbing, electricals, cladding, a frame, and so forth. Now think of all these parts of the house like the notes, the chords, the different scales and songs you've learnt. They're all important, but they're only a very small part in the overall picture, your musical knowledge. Now going back to the house again, after laying the floor, what step do we take next? And the step after that? And the one after that? Would you know what step to take next? Well, the truth is, I don't know. I'm not a builder. And the truth is, unless you're a builder, you probably don't know the answer. It basically follows a step-by-step process to get to the desired outcome, the finished house, or in our case, being able to learn, play, and understand what we're actually playing, so we can apply that all over the fretboard. There's a real benefit in learning a chord and knowing what the notes are in that chord, in knowing where the notes are on the fretboard and which chords belong to what key, and so forth. Having that knowledge on the guitar is actually like having the combination to a lock. So now, let's have a look at what we're going to learn together. Okay, so what we want to have a look at is, over the next few weeks, is things like holding the pick, proper posture, how to hold the guitar. Even though there's many different ways you can hold a pick, many different ways you can hold a guitar and stand and sit and all of that sort of thing, we want to have a look at basically what's the most comfortable way of doing things. We want to start off with some pretty good habits. Again, there's no actual rules to this, but it's kind of best practice if you know what I mean, and you take it from there. If it doesn't feel like the way you want to do it, then you change it around. But I'll show you some of the most popular ways of doing these things, and hopefully that'll help you. Finger exercises, things that are essential when you're playing, before and after. The finger exercises are things I used to even do when I wasn't playing. I'd even do it when I was on the train or the bus or something like that, you know, and the finger exercises, what I found from past students, is it's something that's really helped them. They find that practicing isn't a problem, but they tend to get some soreness after a while if they haven't done any proper exercises and got their fingers stretched and properly limbered up. So that's certainly something we want to have a look at. The 6 strings is going to be the basis of our guitar learning. That's where we need to start. If you don't know the names of the 6 strings, I'm going to show you a simple way of remembering those, and certainly we need to have a look at that before we have a look at any chords or any other names or notes on the neck or anything like that. So that'll be first up. We'll be looking at tuning as well. Obviously it's not going to be any good trying to play all these notes and chords and things like that if our guitar isn't in tune. So I'll show you some ways of how to tune the guitar without actually using a tuner. We'll be using a tuner as well, but you'll have some opportunity at some time where you'll probably need to tune up your guitar without the aid of a tuner, and I'll show you some simple ways of doing that. We'll be looking at tabs because at some point you'll want to read other music, and tab seems to be the most popular form of reading these days for guitarists, even though it has been around since the 1700s, but it seems to be something very popular these days, more than the standard notation. One reason, I guess, is because it's quite easy to understand and even write out if you wanted to let other guitarists know what you're actually doing. So we'll be looking at that. We'll certainly be looking at chords and what goes into making these chords up. It's a very simple approach. I like to break things down so it's quite easy for even beginners to understand. So it'll give you some basis of how a chord is constructed. We'll look at playing some chords, and you'll understand what it all means. From there, we'll also look at playing some songs and some rhythm patterns. Even though knowing the chords is one thing, but to actually play the chords in a particular type of rhythm is where it differentiates one song from the other. With the rhythm patterns, we might look at a few for the same chords, and I'll show you how all of that makes sense anyway as we go along. There will be some other things in there as we go along, and that'll depend on some of the feedback that I get back from you guys. Certainly there's a lot to learn and a lot to cover, and I'll do my best to assist you in that. But certainly send me feedback. Let me know how things are going, if there are other things you want to know, and we will do as much as we can for you in the time we're together. So hopefully this all makes sense to you. Hopefully this is of interest. If it resonates with you, please put your name down and your current email address so we can get in touch with you and let you know when these are up and running and live, and we can finally get you started on playing that guitar. So I thank you for jumping on board. My name is Shane, and I hope to speak to you soon. Thank you.